Hello, I'm April Davila for Sit Right Here, and this is First Page Fridays, where we read and edit somebody's first page submitted anonymously, and I will walk you through the process of how I think about editing so that we can all learn as we go along together. A couple things to note. I have not read the page yet, so I'll start by reading it through, and then we'll jump back up to the top and edit. So if I mispronounce, be gentle with me. This is exactly the kind of work that we do with our clients, this kind of detailed suggesting of changes and edits, and we really at Sit Right Here dig into work with our clients. So if that's something you're interested in, please reach out. I'm going to go ahead and shrink myself down here, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get started. Okay, a hospital waiting room is a lonely place, even more so when it's empty. That's not unusual for the maternity wing's delivery area, as most supporters are on the other side of the double doors. As birthing partners, they're watching, hand-holding, brow-wiping, participating, sharing the pain, receiving the screams, and sometimes fainting with the overwhelm of it all. My son, Oliver, will be doing most of that alongside his wife, Ellie. As the proud father-to-be, on the outside, he'll take it all in stride. On the inside, he'll be impatient and anxious as late afternoon time ticks by on the most life-changing day of his life. With nothing much to do but wait, I worry. I think about what's happening and all that could go wrong after all. A twin birth is loaded with risks for the mother and babies. Oliver's earlier reassuring words, "Don't worry, Mom, there'll be 2 delivery teams, 1 for each birth," now adds to my angst. They really do have to go through the process twice. I tap twin birthing problems into Google and at once wish I hadn't. Low birth weight, preeclampsia and gestational diabetes, anemia, placental abruption, postpartum hemorrhage, congenital abnormities, stillbirth. Some long words I don't understand, but they sound scary, so I resist delving any further. On the wall opposite me, the government issue waiting room clock leans to one side as it ticks slowly behind my time. I tilt my head to mirror the angle of the clock face. Distressed paint flakes off the walls that have seen it all before, hanging around unnoticed. All right, so what do we learn here in this first page? We learned that this is the mother of a son whose partner is about to give birth to twins. That is the setting here. The mom is worried. I wonder if there's some way to get the name of it may not. We always kind of want to introduce our main character as much as possible in the first page. It's particularly hard if you are in first person, because they're not going to call themselves by their first name. So it might not be possible on the first page, but let's see if we can make it happen. The other thing we want to do is try to give a little bit more grounding of where and when we are. So we get the hint of the Google search, so we know this is at least somewhat modern, right? Google's at least 20 years now. And it feels like a fairly modern birth. Let's see. Let's start at the top. A hospital waiting room is a lonely place, even more so when it is empty. That's not unusual for the maternity wing's delivery area, as most supporters are on the other side of the double doors. Okay, so I got a little lost in the geography here. Okay, so now that I'm reading it again, I'm understanding that grandma-to-be is in the waiting room, and the double doors are what's between her and the women giving birth and their partners. Okay, so that's not unusual for the maternity wing's delivery area. So I think this is what threw me. In the delivery, I think of delivery area as like the room where the delivery is happening. So maybe we could clarify this simply by doing that's not unusual for the maternity wing, as most supporters are on the other side of the double door. And again, double doors is, I wonder if specificity, so especially in the first couple lines, you want to be super specific, clarity above all else, because you are drawing your readers in and they don't have anything else to support their understanding of the story as they go along. So like this kind of phrasing, the other side of the double doors, if it were mid-story or 100 pages in, I have enough context that I'm rolling with it. But on the second line of your story, I think we gotta tighten that up a little bit. That's not unusual for the maternity wing, as most supporters are with their partners, watching, hand-holding, brow wiping, participating, sharing in the pain, receiving the screams, and sometimes fading with the overwhelm of it all. I actually like that. So it just kind of bypasses the double door thing. Hospital waiting room is a lonely place, even more so when it's empty. That's not unusual for the maternity wing. So just so you know, that's not unusual for the maternity wing speaks to a character who has spent time in the maternity wing. Like when I was first reading it through, I was wondering if this was a nurse talking, like someone who knows that waiting room and knows the hospital enough to know that an empty waiting room is not unusual for the maternity wing. Now, my experience is that the waiting rooms in maternity wings are pretty crowded because like everybody wants to meet the new baby and only one person's allowed in the room, usually the spouse. So I mean, I'm rolling with it. I'm fine with it. But because yes, I think this is true enough. Definitely a lonely place, even more so when it's empty. But this not unusual for maternity wing. That's I don't know. I'm willing to run with it for the sake of the story, but it has not been my experience. As most supporters are with their partners, watching, hand-holding, brow wiping, participating, sharing. So this, I'm not watching, hand-holding, brow wiping. I'm right there. Participating is a word where I'm like, I'm thinking about like my husband. What was he doing when I was giving birth? Like watching, hand-holding, brow wiping for sure. Participating, I don't know. Sharing the pain, not really. I'm gonna be honest. So maybe 3 is always a good number too. Watching, hand-holding, brow wiping, and sometimes fainting at the overwhelm of it all. I would just simplify a little bit. And then you're saving a little space on that first page that you can use for other details. My son Oliver will be doing most of that alongside his wife Ellie. Why do you say most? Why not all? Is there some reason? I don't know. I'm just curious, like why most? Let's say all. He'll be doing all of that alongside his wife Ellie. So this is great. We're introducing Oliver and Ellie. They're clearly going to be important characters. As the proud father to be, and should be hyphenated. On the outside, he'll take it all in stride. I'm just going to say he'll take it all in stride. But and this is an opportunity to like get at the intimacy of mom, right? But I know he'll be impatient and anxious. But I know this is what we're really saying is that this narrator, the mother, knows her son. But I know he'll be impatient and anxious as late afternoon time ticks by on the most life-changing day of his life. So there's a little bit of repetition here, life, and the impatient and anxious as late afternoon time ticks by. Is it important that it's late afternoon? Because this is a little awkward. I might say as time ticks by on the most life-changing day of his life. How do we get life out of there one time? And anxious as time ticks by on this most life-changing day. On this most life-changing day. With nothing much to do but wait, I worry. Of course you do. Okay, I think about what's happening in the other room. Okay, in the maternity area, in the birthing room. I don't know what how to phrase that. I think about what's happening. What if we said, I think about what Ellie is going through. I think about what, and again, I always like to say these are my suggestions. They are not, by no means do you have to commit to them. I'm simply making suggestions. It's your story, you get to decide. I think about what Ellie is going through. And I wonder too, like, this is Oliver's mom. She's been through this. Like, could you have her reflect on that? Could she have a moment of, I think about what Ellie is going through? You could have her say, I went through it too, but not with twins. And introduce that idea of twins. I worry about, we already said worry, we already said think. I think about what Ellie is going through. I went through it too. And this would be an opportunity to say, like, 33 years ago with Oliver. But twins is a different story, but giving birth to twins is different. There's so much that can go wrong. Let's just see here. There's so much that can go wrong. A twin birth. A twin birth. Is that how it's phrased? I haven't had twins, so I don't know. A twin birth is loaded with risks for the mother and the babies. Oliver's earlier reassuring words. You might earlier attempts at reassuring me. Attempts at reassuring me. Now add to my angst. Don't worry, Mom. There'll be 2 delivery teams, 1 for each birth. Now adds to my angst. Yeah, I like that. You could also phrase it as like earlier Oliver attempted. I mean, so when we put in quotes, we're kind of like dragging us back into that scene for a moment. So you could also rephrase it as earlier Oliver attempted to reassure me by saying there'd be 2 delivery teams, 1 for each birth, and just kind of recounting it. But since you used it as a direct quote, I'm just going to leave it that way. They really do have to go. So they, they really do have to go through the process twice. This is a little. Feels a little clunky. How could we rephrase it? The thought of giving birth twice. Because this is what she's realizing, right? Is that she's actually giving birth twice. The thought of actually giving birth twice. Actually giving birth twice is terrifying. I tap twin, and then if you're gonna, if this is what twin birthing problems, I would at least italicize it, if not put it in quotes. I tap twin birthing problems into Google, and at once wish I hadn't. Yeah, yeah, don't do that. But it's a good it's a good character detail. She's in the waiting room, doesn't have anything to do. She's worried. She Googles. She really shouldn't have. Low birth weight, preeclampsia, gestational diabetes. I would frame this a little bit. I scroll through reports of low birth weight, preeclampsia, gestational diabetes, anemia, placental abruption, postpartum hemorrhage. I mean, that is a list. Some long words I don't understand, but they sound scary, so I resist it. I think rather than long words I don't understand, which is, it kind of comes across as vague, I might say, I close the search and put my phone in my pocket. On the wall opposite, oh, no, nope, not doing that. On the wall opposite me, the government issue waiting room clock. So I'm curious about that description. Is this a hint that we are in a government building? That this is some kind of government-sponsored hospital? If so, great, that's good. If not, I might change that. I might change it to standard issue. I'm going to leave it as government because I'm going to assume that that's what you meant. But if you're not hinting at the fact that we're in some kind of governmental building, I would change it to standard issue waiting room clock. And also, I don't know that this is the detail that we most need. I think you could save yourself some space for first page details by just saying, on the wall opposite me, the clock leans to one side and slowly clicks its time. And again, behind my time, the clock leans to one side. So I'm picturing it's kind of crooked on the wall as it ticks slowly behind time. I'm not behind my time. I don't really know what that means. I tilt my head to mirror the angle of the clock. That's funny. I actually like that. To one side. I tilt my head to mirror the angle of the clock face. Distressed paint flakes off walls. This was awkward. I had to read this a couple of times. Flakes off, even just the distressed paint flakes off the walls that have seen it all before. I feel like you might break that into 2 descriptions. And then I guess the paint flakes are what are hanging around unnoticed. It picks off the walls, and I get the feeling that this room has seen it all before. I may take off hanging around since we're talking more about the room than the paint flecks. Okay, so I have trimmed up some space on this. First page is usually 250 words. Let's just look. Oh, we're right about there. Okay, I must have added some too. I think I would really love for you to get a few details about our characters in here. I mean, I added the detail of how old Oliver is. I just made that up, so it's probably not right. But what we know right now is unnamed narrator has a son named Oliver. His wife Ellie is about to have twins. She is in the waiting room, our narrator, and worrying. I wonder, is there some way, could she, instead of seeing the clock, could she see her reflection? And I mean, and what a perfect time for a mother to reflect on, like, wow, 33 years have gone by since I did this. I gave birth. I noticed the wrinkles on my skin and how my hair has gone gray. Like, give us a few details about this woman. I mean, presumably we know she's about to be a grandma, so she is of that age. But if you can catch her in a reflection, you might be able to tell us, like, what color is her skin? What color is her hair? Her eyes? If you could give a hint in here as to her societal, cultural background, are there traditions of birth that maybe her grandmother might have done when she was born that aren't going to be honored here, but she respects that this is a new age, and here in London, this is how things are. Here in New York, this is how things are done. Like, if you could get us into, like, what part of the world we are in. Again, these are tricky things to try to do, but this is the challenge of being a writer, especially on the first page. You want to think about what's really important to the story. I might even argue that you could, I mean, all of this, is terrifying. Like, I think they're good details, but I think they might be better used, the space, to give us a few details about our character. Maybe someone comes in and calls her by name. I don't know, but just thinking about ways that you can tell us a little bit more. Age, race, and tall, short, skinny, large. If she's a skinny woman, does she sit in a chair and feel like she's a child because it's so skinny? If she's a large woman, does she sit in the chair and like the arms kind of grate against her hips? Ugh. There's some details you can drop in there that will tell us more about her without you having to say, she was 5'10" and a 300-pound woman, which is not quite how I'm picturing her, but just as an example. So all in all, this is a lovely opening. It's a great moment for this character. There's a lot of suspense. I definitely want to know, like, are Ellie and the twins going to be okay? What happens? I would definitely keep reading, and just because the very nature of this opening poses questions that I, as a human and a mother who has given birth as well, am curious to see how it goes. So in general, yes, well done. And just look for ways to bring in some specificity and some details about your characters. All right. So thank you again to the writer who submitted their page. This doesn't work without you. And if you would like to submit your page, there's a link below the video. You can click to send yours in. We'll put it in the queue, and I'll see you next week for our next First Page Friday.